abundantly clear before we take another microstep any deeper into this. I am not attacking people's faith. This is not about mocking spirituality. This is not about saying people shouldn't pray or read the Bible. It's not about saying Christians cannot gather, cannot worship, cannot read scripture publicly, cannot celebrate what is meaningful to them. No, that is not the issue here at all. You want to read your sacred text? Do it. You want to gather in devotion? Go for it. You want to build your daily life around your beliefs? More power to you, friend. You want to pray before meals, pray before bed, pray in groups, pray in solitude, sing hymns, read scripture, hold revival meetings, build church community, study theology, and center Christ in your life? Well, honey, darling, dear heart friend, that is your right. That is your freedom. That is, in theory, anyway, part of what living in this country is supposed to protect. The right to believe, the right to practice, the right to gather, and the right to choose your path without the government deciding what your soul is supposed to answer to. That is the whole goddamn fucking point. And because that is the point, the government is not supposed to pick one path and act like it belongs to all of us. That is where this crosses a line. Because this is not private practice. This is not a church revival happening on church grounds or a Bible study in somebody's living room. This is not a local congregation holding a public reading in a park. This is not a handful of citizens renting a space and doing what they feel called to do. This is power, optics, and messaging, because this is state-adjacent religious performance dressed up as heritage. And that distinction, my lovelies, is what matters here. It matters because where something happens matters. What symbols are surrounding it matter. What story is being told by the setting matters. This isn't just a bunch of random-ass believers sitting in folding chairs in fellowship. This is happening at the seat of government in our country. This is happening in the capital of a nation that is supposed to have separation of church and state. This is happening with participation and endorsement from elected officials and political figures whose actual job is not to elevate a single religion, but to uphold a constitution that is supposed to protect all of us equally. This includes the Christians, the Jews, the Muslims, the Buddhists, the Hindus, the pagans, the witches, the atheists, the agnostics, and the people who are still figuring it all out, including the people who don't want religion anywhere near their governance, and including the people who have been harmed so badly by religion that seeing it fused with state power makes their entire nervous system light up like a fucking warning flare. That is what government is supposed to do. Not preach, not evangelize, and not signal which God is the preferred God of citizenship. Not to imply that the real America belongs to the people following one specific theological framework. And yet, that is exactly what this kind of event does. Because even if nobody says those words outright, the message still lands. That's how power works. It doesn't always announce itself honestly. Oh, gods no. It hints, it suggests, it stages, and it frames, it repeats, and most of all, it normalizes. And all the while, if you call it out, people act like you're overreacting. That's part of the trick too. Because what we are watching is that line, that necessary line between personal faith and public governance is getting blurrier, soft, conveniently ignorable. And I need every single one of you to sit with that for just a minute. not react out of reflex or skip ahead to the well, what about arguments, not leap straight into defending or condemning. Just notice it. Because this is how it happens. Not only once, not usually through some giant cinematic collapse where ominous music starts playing and suddenly everybody understands the danger. No. It happens slowly, incrementally, through image and repetition, tone and ceremony, and through the gradual reshaping of what feels normal. It happens through language that sounds familiar enough, comforting enough, and traditional enough that people don't question it right away. Celebration, tradition, faith, foundations, values, heritage, returning to God, restoring the soul of this nation. You hear words like that and a lot of people soften pretty much immediately because they're meant to soften you. They are meant to feel safe and feel rooted and feel like continuity. They are honestly meant to feel like home. But familiar language can carry dangerous intent just as easily as hostile language can. Maybe more easily, honestly, because, well, hostile language gets noticed. Comfortable language just kind of slips through the front door. And underneath all of those soothing words, underneath all of that patriotic wrapping paper and spiritual nostalgia, is a question this country keeps circling and refusing to answer honestly. Who does this country belong to? And, maybe even more importantly, who gets to decide that? Because when you take one specific religious text, not spirituality in the broadest sense, not a respectful acknowledgement of pluralism, not a genuine honoring of multiple paths, but one specific sacred text from one specific dominant tradition, and you place that at the center of a national civic celebration, you are not just honoring it. You are elevating it. You are centering it. You are giving it symbolic primacy. You are, whether you say it out loud or not, positioning it as the moral and cultural standard against which everything else is measured. And my loves, that has consequences. Real ones. Because if one belief system is centered, then every other belief system is automatically decentered. If one framework is treated as foundational, then the rest of us are treated as secondary, optional, peripheral, guests. And I need people to understand this very clearly. Marginalization does not always show up as someone shouting you down. Sometimes, frequently, it's quieter than that. It arrives as assumption, as default, as the steady, unquestioned centering of one worldview until literally everything else feels like an exception. And now, if you don't live inside that worldview, you feel it pretty much immediately. You feel it when people assume your holidays don't matter in the same way. You feel it when politicians talk about people of faith and clearly mean one kind. You feel it when morality gets coded in language that excludes your existence before you ever open your mouth. You feel it when public institutions start echoing the theology of the dominant group and then pretending that's just common sense. You feel it in your body. You feel it in that little tightening in your chest, that little prickle at the back of your neck, that little moment where you realize, oh, well, this space is not neutral. This space has decided who it is really built for now. And for those of us who practice differently, believe differently, pray differently, live differently, or don't place our ethics inside a religious container at all, honey, y'all, that shift is not theoretical. We feel it, even when it's subtle. Honestly, especially when it's subtle, because overt exclusion at least tells the truth about itself. Subtle exclusion hides behind manners. It hides behind pageantry and polished smiles and scripted language. It says, oh, everyone is welcome, while arranging the room around a single worldview. It says, this is for all Americans, while making it very clear which Americans are actually reflected in the symbols, the messaging, and the power structure. It says, no one is excluding you, while building a cultural environment where your difference is constantly marked, constantly noted, constantly treated as deviation from the norm. That's the game. And I, for one, am really fucking tired of people pretending not to see it. Because honestly, I'm so frustrated and pissed off here. Because what events like this communicate is not simply these people love their faith. What they communicate is this faith belongs at the center of public life. This faith defines the soul of this nation. This faith is the lens through which America should understand itself. And if you don't share that faith, the message underneath the message becomes, you can be here, but it really isn't for you. Or, you can live here, but the moral center isn't yours. Or, you could participate, but you do not get to define the story. Or, well, you can exist, but don't expect to be centered. And I don't know about you, my witchlings, but I am not interested in being merely tolerated in a space that I also belong to. Been there, done that, got a few t-shirts to prove it. So I am not interested in being patted on the head and told, well, nobody said you had to read along. That's not the point. The point is that this country does not belong to one religion. It does not belong to one denomination, one interpretation of God, the loudest church in the room, or people who have confused dominance with righteousness. It belongs to all of us. And if it belongs to all of us, then public power has no fucking business staging itself like the property of one theological tradition. Because once government starts signaling spiritual preference, it stops being neutral. And once neutrality erodes, belonging erodes right along with it. And that is why this matters. Not because they're reading a book. Because of where, because of who is participating, because of what it means and the story being told, and because who is erased when one story is treated like the story. And I need all of us to stop minimizing that. I need us to stop acting like concern only counts when the danger is already fully grown. By the time the danger is obvious, it has usually already been fed for a long-ass fucking time. So tonight, we are naming the fire, we are naming the optics, we are naming the power and the manipulation wrapped up in familiarity. We are naming the slow creep of theocratic nonsense dressed up as patriotic devotion. Because if we do not name what we are seeing, we will get trained to live inside it. And I, for one, am not about to smile politely while the line between church and state gets dissolved under the warm glow of ceremony and scripture. No. We are going to look straight at it. We are going to call it what it is, and then we're going to keep going. Yes. I see it. Works for me. I'm reading the chat right at the moment, catching up with everybody. Give me just a second. Thank you, Curious. I see that. All right. All right. All right, there we go. All right. Thank you for the compliments, Curious. I actually do a Friday night guided meditation here on this channel every Friday evening. So come listen to that. That's when I kind of tone things down and get soothing. Yeah, if I can keep from drooling Dr. Pepper down my face. Oh, and check out my daily streams because I randomly burst into song during those. Love being a theater kid. All right, here we go. We are now going to talk about the theater of all of this shit. So, let's talk about the theater of all of this because no. This ain't just an event. This is a performance, and not even a subtle one. It is staged, curated, and designed. This, my friends, is what power looks like when it wants to be seen and believed without being questioned. We have Donald Trump participating via pre-recorded video from the Oval, reading scripture from the seat of executive power. And I want y'all to sit with that image. Don't just hear what I'm saying. Picture this shit. The resolute desk, the presidential seal, the carefully framed shot, the lighting, the posture, the tone. One of the most recognizable symbols of secular authority in the entire world being used as a backdrop for a religious message. My friends, that is not accidental or incidental. That's not he happened to be sitting there moment. No, this is intentional AF because optics are never accidental at that level. Every single thing is chosen, everything is framed, everything is meant to communicate something, even if that something is never spoken out loud. And what this image communicates is very, very simple. This belongs here. This belongs together. This is aligned. That's our story because symbols matter. Where something happens matters. Who participates matters. And when you take these elements and when you blend religious performance with governmental imagery, you don't just create a moment. You create meaning and association. You create a visual shorthand that bypasses logic and goes straight to the nervous system. Because our brains are wired for pattern recognition. We don't just process words, we process images and context and repeated exposure. And over time, those patterns start to feel true, whether they are or not. That's how conditioning and normalization work. That's how propaganda works. And I don't say that one lightly, because I know people hear that word and immediately want to either shut down or push back. But propaganda doesn't always look like posters and slogans and obvious manipulation. Sometimes it looks like ceremony and tradition. Sometimes it looks like something so familiar that you don't question it. And that's what makes it so damn effective. Because if it looked threatening, people would resist. If it looked aggressive, people would question it. If it looked like control, people would push back. But when it looks like something people already trust, something people already associate with morality and goodness and righteousness and belonging, it just slides right on in. There's no resistance. And then you just add more layers to it. Because it's not just one person. It's not just one video. And it's not just one symbolic moment. You've got Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. You've got Marco Rubio. You've got Pete Hegseth. I hate this. I've gotten so used to calling him Keg's Breath. But you've got Pete Hegseth. You've got nearly 500 national leaders, senators, governors, all stepping into this space, lending their presence, their authority, and their fucking credibility. And that, my friends, is where the shift goes from symbolic to systemic. Because one person doing something, that can easily be dismissed. But hundreds? That's a pattern, alignment, some serious coordination, and definitely reinforcement. Again, and again, and again, and again. And here's the thing about repetition, y'all. It works. Not because people are stupid, but because people are human. We are wired to learn through repetition. Why do you think we practice things like music and dance moves? We are wired to trust what is familiar. We are wired to relax our guard when something feels normal. That's biology and psychology, and that is not a flaw. It is how humans survive. But there's a big-ass but hanging here. But it also means we can be conditioned. Because the more we see something, the more familiar it feels. The more familiar it feels, the more normal it seems. And the more normal it seems, the less we question it. And that's how normalization happens. Not through force, not through some dramatic declaration, through exposure and repetition, and through the slow, almost invisible erosion of that internal signal that says, wait, something's wrong here. Something feels off. And I want you to think about that for a moment. I want you to think about that moment when you hear something deep inside go, wait, something's not right here. Because I know you've had it. You've had it before. We all have. That split second where something doesn't quite sit right, but then your brain just immediately smooths it over. Oh, it's fine. I'm overthinking it. They wouldn't do that. Oh, it's just tradition. It's just a celebration. Honey, it's not that deep. I swear if I hear that phrase one more time in my life, that is the moment where normalization takes hold. Because if you override that instinct enough times, eventually it stops speaking up. And then, I distracted myself, sorry. And then things that would have once felt deeply concerning start to feel ordinary, expected, acceptable. And that is how lines move. Not all at once, but millimeter by millimeter, inch by inch, moment by moment, image by image. Until one day, you look around and realize that the boundary that used to be there is gone. And nobody can quite point to when it disappeared. And here's someplace I want to be really, really, really clear because this part matters. This is not just about religion. It's about narrative control. Because whoever controls the narrative, the frame, the meaning, controls what gets defined as normal and moral and American. And once those definitions are set, everything else starts to align around them. Because when you can define what is foundational, you get to decide what everything else is built on. When you can define what is American, you get to decide who belongs. When you can define what is normal, you get to decide who and what is outside of it. And once those definitions start to settle into place, they stop being questioned and they start being assumed. And that's where this stops being symbolic and starts being structural. Because laws do not exist in a vacuum. Policies do not exist in isolation. They are shaped by belief systems. They are justified by narratives, and they are upheld by the stories we tell about who we are as a nation. And if those stories shift, if they shift a little bit, everything else follows. What gets protected shifts. What gets prioritized shifts. What gets funded shifts. Restricted, erased, it all shifts. And suddenly, something that started out as just a reading becomes part of a much, much larger framework that determines how power actually moves. And the scariest part of all of this? Most people don't even realize it's happening. Because it doesn't look like a takeover. It doesn't look like force or someone kicking down the door and declaring a theocracy. It looks like a celebration or tradition or something familiar enough that people don't stop to ask, wait, why is this happening here? Why is this happening in this space? And why are these specific people participating in this specific way? What message is actually being sent? And that right there, that pause, that question, that single moment of awareness, that right there is everything. Because awareness is the disruption point. Awareness is where the spell breaks. And it's where you stop passively absorbing and start actively seeing. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You start noticing the patterns. You start recognizing the framing. And you start catching those moments where something is being presented as harmless, but is actually carrying some serious weight. Now, that doesn't mean you panic. Doesn't mean you spiral. Doesn't mean you jump straight into outrage, because outrage without awareness burns out pretty fast. But awareness, that sustains and grounds us. Awareness gives you the ability to choose your response instead of being swept up in someone else's narrative. So that's what I want you anchored in as we move forward. Not fear or denial, and definitely not blind acceptance. We want awareness. Because once you see how power performs, you start to understand how it moves. And once you understand how it moves, you get to decide how you respond to it. And that's my bitch and rant about America Reads the Bible for this week. Gray. All right, y'all. Before I take this deeper into the fire for just a minute, if you are here for this kind of conversation, if you appreciate this space where we can think critically, feel deeply, and not be told to sit down and shut up, you can support this work. I have Patreon, Substack, my shop where you can get readings, coaching, all the goodies, all the witchy goodies, the mugs, hoodies, gear for you and your familiars. All of that helps keep this space independent. Because I don't answer to boards. I don't answer to institutions. And I do not answer to a spiritual advisor. And that's exactly why I can say what needs to be said here. Now, if coins are tight for y'all, I get it. We're all broke-ass witches right now. So, share this space. Because getting people to pause and think that right now matters more than anything. All right, let's get back to the show. All right. I see this. Witches are just Satanists. technically, I am a member of the Satanic Temple of Puget Sound, but no. No. Most witches I know are not Satanists. Make witch hunts great again. Ooh, you do realize that he just made an active threat against most of the people in this chat, my love? No, I said that by technicality I have a membership with the Satanic Temple of the Puget Sound. I'm not a Satanist. I support the group because I support what they do politically. It's kind of amusing. Yep. Thank you, Curious. I actually put a lot of thought into tonight, and it took a bit for me to calm down after reading about this. I will admit, I have to give credit where credit is due. I discovered tonight's topic courtesy of Monty Mater. If you do not know who she is an amazing content creator. I follow her on YouTube primarily. She grew up white Christian nationalist. She was the poster child for them. And she has since deconstructed and has so much fun fighting back against the culture she grew up in. Yeah. Satanists do not worship Satan. The only religion that actually acknowledges a genuine, real Satan are Christians. Okay. The only, yeah, maybe. He's saying that the Islamic State recognizes us as Satan. Can't say I blame him there. It's okay, Mimi. You're not a problem, Mimi. You're doing fine. Yep, we were just letting them hang themselves. Come on. They do it so well. All right, you guys. What do Satanists worship then? So, okay, there are two different flavors of Satanism. There is LaVeyan Satanism, which that's the whole your body is your temple, blah 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 blah. But give me a second. I don't know it off the top of my head. Here we go. The Satanic Temple uses Satan as a symbol of the eternal rebel fighting the Satanic Temple's satanic good news. Yeah, the Satanic Temple is more a political organization than a religious organization. So yeah, they do not worship a literal Satan. Hey, Joram. They use it because Satan is the eternal underdog. Yeah. That is true too. All right. Oh no, it's not that we don't expect hate. We simply expect that when people come in here, they not spew hate and harmful rhetoric at people they don't know. And generally about things that they have no control over. So, let's get back to the show now. All right. Now let's Let's connect all of this shit into something deeper, because this isn't just about politics. It's about capacity and, more specifically, the lack of it. Because systems like this, whether it's government, corporate culture, or religious authority, they do not just rely on belief. They rely honestly on exhaustion and on you being too overwhelmed to pause long enough to question anything. They want you to be too busy, too stretched, and too maxed out because when your nervous system is constantly in motion, you don't have space to notice. And if you don't notice, you don't push back, you don't question, and you sure as the hell don't opt out. You just keep going. And that's where the lie of more comes in. Because we have been taught, well, conditioned actually, that more is the answer to everything. More work, more effort, more productivity, more proving, more doing, more achieving, and more being whatever version of yourself you think will finally be enough. All sounds reasonable, right? Because growth matters, effort matters, showing up matters, but here's the problem. There's no finish line. There is no moment where the system turns around and says, okay, you've done enough now, you can rest. That moment? Oh, it don't exist. Because the system isn't designed to give you that. It's designed to keep you chasing. Because a person who feels like they're never enough is a person who keeps producing, performing, complying, and trying to earn something that was never meant to be given in the first place. And then when you zoom out, you start to see the pattern. Religious systems telling you you're never quite righteous enough. Capitalist systems telling you you're never quite successful enough. Social systems telling you you're never quite acceptable enough. It's different language, but the same pressure. More, always more. And the cost of that is your capacity, your awareness, and, well, your ability to sit still long enough to realize what actually is going on around you. So, my lovelies, the lie is simple. If you just do more, you'll finally be enough. More work, more productivity, more compliance, more performance. And somehow, it's still never enough. That's not a flaw in you guys. That's not a flaw in any of us. That is straight up design. Because if you ever actually felt enough, you'd stop. You would rest. You would question. And you would opt out of the things that drain you. And systems that rely on your exhaustion, they can't function if you're grounded and aware. So, my lovelies, this is where Santosha comes in. Santosha being our Sanskrit word of the week. So I need y'all to hear this very clearly. This is not passive. This is not just be happy with what you have. This is choosing deliberately to stop feeding the machine. Saying, I have done enough today. I am not overextending just to prove my worth. I am not available for systems that require my exhaustion. That is disruption, my witchlings, because right now, you're not reacting to their noise. You are rooted in your own center, and from that place, their authority doesn't hit the same, does it? So, here's where we land, my lovelies. We've got systems pushing more as the answer to everything. More control, more performance, more noise. But more isn't clarity. More isn't care. More is just louder chaos. And then at some point, you get to decide, am I going to keep feeding this? Or am I going to choose something that actually sustains me? Because you don't need to prove yourself into exhaustion to deserve your place in this world. You don't need to perform belonging. You already belong. And the wall between church and state, yeah, it might be cracking right now, but the boundary around your spirit, honey, that's yours. Guard it, hold it, and let that shit be enough. And that, my lovelies, is our message for this week. So, let's check in. It's the wee garden witch. Hello! Okay, I was reading some of what that one said. Hold on. I gotta see this now. Okay, I saw one message get... I did see that one. Yeah, I did see that one. I didn't see the whole thing. Okay, yep. You're really lucky I can't... I'm not a violent person. Okay, that's the other one. Yeah, I'm seriously, what is the obsession with... Yeah, what is the obsession with people's genitals that you're not living with? I just measure Christians by their works and so many don't qualify. Yes. I do know a few Christians who actually walk the talk. And they're pretty awesome people. Oh, thank you, Theodore. Damn, we got some awesome people in here tonight. I'm scrolling back and checking the chat that everybody was talking while I was talking. Thank you, Whistle Gun. Yeah, had some weird people here. You know, this particular podcast tends to draw some of the lesser people. I had a feeling that's what you meant. Yeah. But hey. Did I... Well, technically, we are kind of spreading our gospel. Did I mention... Damn it, it's not in there. Damn it. It's something that Jefferson signed. I can't remember the name of it right now, though. Oh, but it was the one that it spoke directly to the wall between church and state. I'll find it later and put it in the blog. Yeah, I think it was the Federalist Papers. Considering I am a member of the LGBTQIA community, yes. Oh, so this little pin actually came from my local Pride organization. I went to one of their events. Actually, I've now been to 2 of their events, and I grabbed one. I have one here. This thing here that has a bunch of pins on it also has one, and I have one on one of my favorite hats. So, haha. I'm not doing too bad. Some people are out of their minds. You are so not wrong. Might have been... Hold on. It's going to bug me if I want to say it may have been the Federalist Papers, but I cannot remember. Okay. Yeah, I'll find it later, and I will pop it into the blog. Yeah. Hey, Richard, I'm going to suggest it. I'm going to make a suggestion. I would love to talk to you about this, but we do not have time today. So, 1:30 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow, I will be streaming again. I will happily help you. I will happily talk to you about this during Chillin' with the Witchlings after that. That usually starts 2-ish. So come hang out with us and we'll talk about it. And trust me, there are plenty of us plenty of my regulars in there who are in the same boat or have been in your shoes. We can help you. The Jefferson Bible is a Bible that Jefferson cut all of the miracles out of. Oh, nice. His name is actually Joram Garden Witch. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, he's hard to decode sometimes, but we love him. So, I personally really would love to talk about it, but we're trying to stay under an hour today, which is difficult for me on a good day. So, that's true. Jartu Feratu. Tomorrow night, for those of you who are either close to the West Coast or in a completely different time zone, 10:30 p.m. Seattle time, we will be going live with Witchlings Round the Cauldron Midnight Mass, which is just kind of a chit-chat session. Midnight, we light a candle, welcome in the day, and have our blessing. So, I think yeah, I could see both being true. Will you quit? Otherwise, our next stream is... So we have tomorrow afternoon, 1:30 p.m. my time, and Kitty here says we hang out at the Space Needle. That tells you where I'm at. Then 10:30 tomorrow night, we have Chillin' with the Witchlings. Thursday, 1:30 p.m. and then 5:30 p.m. my time, I have the Yoga Witch's Cauldron, which is my normal... my Thursdays is my normal Yoga Witchy podcast where I will be talking Santosha. And then Friday night guided meditation. Also, you guys are getting this news because I forgot to tell everybody during stream. I am going to be doing some one-off, or not exactly one-off. I'm going to start kind of a new thing with the podcasts where I am going to have guests come on because I really want to talk to some witchy types about deconstructing evangelicalism. I've got 2 people I can talk to. And then just a friend wants to come on and hang out with me and chit-chat about his path. So we'll be doing some of that too. My friend that is coming to chit-chat about his path is Silas the Sea Witch. He is on Buy Me a Coffee. Go find him. If I could link to him with mine, I would. But he is awesome. He is so cool. Yes, I want to talk philosophy too. Because philosophy and religion are a couple of my hyper focuses. And I love it. What are you questioning, Jack? That's okay. His name, the RMCS, I'm going, are you a fucking senior chief? Hey, Sean. We are actually getting ready to wrap up. I just want to know if Jack is... Yeah. We just finished my... Yeah. Subscribe, ring the bell. You'll get notified about every time I go live, and possibly when we post new videos, which the man behind the curtain does a couple a day. Yes. Oh, trust me, I'm going to rope that man into a podcast, too. Even if we have to do it at a weird time. Yep. We will probably rope John and a couple of my other friends in to just chit-chat about talking tarot. Because that could be fun. Ooh, yes. Give me a second. I need to write myself a note. On that note, my piggy notebook. On that note, my loves, I am going to say it is time to wrap up. So, before we go, just a quick reminder, this space does exist solely because of this witchling community. There are no corporate sponsors here yet, just shared magic, mutual care, and a fuck ton of love. And now, my darling witchlings, it is time to go out and spread love, spread joy, and spread kindness, because there is already way too much darkness and hate in this world. Let each of us choose to be steady lights of love and light and joy and hope for those stumbling in the shadows. And then be sure your loved ones in all their forms, 2 legs, 4 legs, wings, fur, scales, paws, and claws, know that you love them beyond words. Because as our friend here says, time is not a strict progression of cause to effect. It is far more of a big ball of wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff that moves faster than any of us realize, meaning those chances to say I love you one last time are not guaranteed. Ask the doctor and Rose. And if you take only one thing away from everything I do here, I want it to be that you always remember this. You are loved. You are wanted. You are needed. And your purpose here is real and genuine, even if you don't know what it is yet. I didn't figure mine out till I was 45. I love you guys to bits. Have a fantabulously magical rest of your day or night wherever you are. I will see you guys all very soon. Namaste, my witchlings.